Calling the February 1st, 2022 Planning Commission to order at 18:57. Roll call.
Tracy Bunkowski.
Here.
Lucy Nolan Dilbert.
Here.
Out. Chris Dilbert.
Here.
Rob Pennell.
Present.
Craig Sims is out. And Rachel Woodson is present.
We have no public hearing tonight, but we do have a hearing of the public comments on the agenda, if that's what you'd like to speak to, coming up after that. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I have, okay, you reading on me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you spoke, I'm listening. I got my pen to paper.
Under new business, item 2,
Yeah.
that I would like to change from discussion to discussion action.
Can we do action when we didn't have it pre-published as action? That was my experience, that you could change the agenda to the point of no act, you can't take action at, if you didn't publish action.
That's a possibility.
But, you know,
But you can add action items to the agenda prior to the meeting, so I think it's okay.
you think so? I thought if it wasn't published with action on it.
The council
The public to
agenda
see.
no longer does discussion action.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Oh,
You're right.
really?
Yeah, they eliminate, you are correct.
I guess we'll put it in with a clause, and we can do it, or we'll do it, and if not, if the lawyer says no, it's null and void, right?
You start over? Okay. And then maybe moving forward.
In talking to Genevieve and the amount of things that will get accomplished tonight, the thought is that we need to have a meeting in between here and the next meeting. So that was a point of discussion if we want to hold a meeting after, set a meeting after this one if this is not as productive as we would hope as far as getting things done. Specifically in regards to the master plan. So her thought was to call another meeting before next month so we could work on the master plan. So any other changes? Under communication, I'd like to throw calendar out. I hope everyone got the copy, the latest, greatest copy. I just had a comment on it. What's that?
Gotta finish that agenda.
Yeah, it was a motion.
I
Oh,
made
yeah,
a
yeah.
motion to approve the agenda. Chris just wanted to make the add action, so does anybody support that?
I support.
I support it. Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Okay. Approval of the full agenda, because you were just approving that action piece, correct? Or were you
No,
approving the whole
that
thing?
was the full agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Public comments on the agenda?
Yes. Good evening. I'm Justin Morgan. I'm an attorney for the estate of George Drake. And
I'm sorry, can you repeat your name?
Justin Morgan.
Thank you.
I'm with the estate of George Drake. Mr. Drake passed away December 31st of 2021. I think I heard your comment that you're not going to comment on the old business item 2. So I guess I'll just comment generally that the 2 parcels, B and C, which are 58660 Victoria and 58580 Victoria, those are owned by the estate. And, oh, I'm sorry, can't hear me.
Great,
I
thank you. I
apologize.
couldn't hear you very well.
I'm new to this, I'm sorry. Again, my name is Justin Morgan for the estate of George Drake. There's 2 parcels on the agenda under the old business zoning, rezoning, parcel B and C on the agenda. Prior to his passing, Mr. Drake believed that this was removed from the agenda or that there wasn't going to be a reclassification of zoning. So we kind of learned about this secondhand this evening. We haven't had any time we don't really know what the commission's considering. I don't know if there's a change from commercial to residential, but the estate, I think the heirs probably would have some objections to changing the classification. This gentleman here, he actually has a land contract for the parcel C, so I think he has the same objections as well. So we just want to have opportunity to speak to that, depending on what the commission's.
The last one was that you guys had denied. Okay, now I'm hearing that it's back up again, so that's what we're trying to find out.
It was never denied, but it was tabled. And actually, the original was, there's a reclassification change that we're looking to. It's going to be discussed tonight. And if, without an objection, if our planner could make that presentation and then allow them to speak at that point so that they can speak on what's actually being talked about. Can we go out of order on the agenda to let
We have
them?
a public hearing again.
Well, that's where we're going to end up, yeah.
Right, right, because if we decide to do A, B,
Any.
C, or D, whatever, we still have to have a public hearing
Correct.
before anything goes into play, so.
So anything that we do at this point will re-go through the whole public hearing process. So it'll be published
Okay.
and it will be a formal public hearing for the, so I guess we can go through ahead and we'll,
So, I'm sorry to interrupt. Does that mean that there won't be any action taken? It's just discussion tonight, and then does that mean?
no action can be taken, but it's going to go through a process.
Okay.
Like it's got to start over again,
Okay.
basically. Because the thought has changed as far as what to zone.
Okay.
And so we're going to hear a presentation on that tonight.
I don't know if we should talk about this now or later. Can we just make sure we have the right notice address for whoever is going to get notice for these addresses? Because we hadn't received them in the last
Yes.
30 days, but it sounds like it just hasn't been restarted. So that
Yeah,
might
if
be
you
why.
give me your address, I'll make sure it goes to the
Okay.
correct address.
Okay. Do we do that now or?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, you got the clerk here as a planning commission too, so she'll hook you up.
So, all right.
Is there any other comments you would like
No,
to make?
other than that, we're set.
Okay, thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Approval of the minutes. Item A, regular meeting, September 7th, 2021.
So move.
So we have to make a date change on one of them.
Not on
Do you
December.
want to do that now?
That's in the December minutes.
Okay, oh, we're just doing the first one?
Yeah,
We're gonna do them all at
September
once, okay.
Do I hear a second?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item B, public hearing, November 2nd, 2021.
So moved.
Support.
So moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Regular meeting, December 7th, 2021. Ms. Gronkowski.
Yeah, we just have to make a date change.
Yeah, it was March,
Or May
I emailed.
3rd, I think it said May 5th.
Right, correct.
So I want to change the minutes that, because we're publishing when our meetings were.
Oh,
Fast
okay.
Fingers put 5/5, it should be 5/3.
Okay.
And then there was something about July, but
No, the July had changed and I wasn't aware of it.
okay.
You put it in there correctly, but I redid the notice and sent it to everybody, so if you wanted to print your dates.
Okay, so we're good.
We're good on that one.
Okay,
But I just updated my list that I had sent to everybody and resent it out.
okay, so,
That's in the form of a motion.
yes, so moved.
Support?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. I didn't catch that. Good job. Okay, communication and correspondence workshop. Everyone got in their email the planning, the next session. If anybody's interested, please let Genevieve know. On the calendar, I just wanted to make aware that July 11th meeting is, or not July, I'm thinking of vacation ahead. The April 5th meeting is school recess time and spring break. So I will not be here. I don't know if anybody else does anything for spring break, if that would affect us having a meeting, but I definitely won't be here.
Yeah, I won't be here.
So we're down 2.
My
Anybody
spring
else?
break is the week before.
Pardon?
I said my kid's spring break is the week before.
Oh, really? So we will have 5 people at this point, if nobody else is.
I'm gonna find it, try to see if I can adopt somebody for like a week.
Come with us.
And that way I can not be here too.
Hey, you can come
We're
with
gonna have a
me.
great time. It's good to me. You wanna come too?
And there's a spare bed on my vacation. It's a 17th floor overlooking the ocean in Fort Lauderdale.
It'll be a field trip.
I'll be sleeping in a sleeping bag by the pool. So just, I'm gonna make Genevieve aware that we'll be down 2, so just keep in mind if anybody maybe
That's
will
in
change. April 5th.
I don't
Yeah,
know, when
it's
is
before,
the-
they put it a whole week before Easter
I'm
this
gonna
year.
be at a granddaughter's competition in Florida the 9th, but I'm not sure when we'll be.
So the 9th will fall on
Saturday.
Saturday.
It's Saturdays, and I think we're going,
For the week.
I may not be here.
Now let's plug it in everybody's head in case we gotta change it coming up. But they moved it, it's not attached to Good Friday this year for some reason.
It's a county-wide spring break now. Every
Oh,
school
really?
district in Macomb County has that first solid week of April off. It's been that way for about maybe 4 or 5 years.
Oh, really?
They did it to ease up on the MISD and transportation. It was a smart move.
So where your kids go to school?
St. Clair.
Oh.
His mom was there.
I mean, it's probably a good idea to stagger, maybe Florida won't be so full.
I'll be in Florida the week before.
Matters for consideration, old business, zoning, rezoning, parcels 0633226018, commonly known as 58680 Victoria. B, parcel 0633226019, commonly known as 58660 Victoria Street. And C, parcel 0633252012, commonly known as 58580 Victoria. And thank you, John.
Would you like me to comment on those then?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So, as those parcels currently stand, they're all zoned light industrial. The current draft of the future land use plan has it designated as medium density residential, as what we envision it to be in the future. And this is to be reflective of what the general character is of the area, what's developed behind the properties with Pembroke and all the other properties there, the capacity, the size of the road, as well as kind of this location near the downtown, and feeling that there might be a more suitable and more complementary use that could be there other than light industrial. Because we're also thinking about like noxious uses, externalities that can be negative to the surrounding area, whether it's like noise, dust, traffic, vibrations, like all these different things that kind of come with more of an industrial use. So with that said, we were looking at different options. I sent out a memo that kind of delineated 4 different options that we could potentially consider for this area. Some of them are more appropriate than others. And mainly we're thinking about, there are some conditions that exist in the property that we cannot necessarily change unless there's like an act of God, quote unquote, like if there's a natural disaster or something falls over or something like that, like, or the contracts of certain things kind of expire. So with that said, if these type of structures exist and you have a residential development there, you could potentially have a conflict of having something that doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily permitted explicitly. It would be would need to be seen as like a special land use or kind of grandfathered in as a special land use for that district. So with that said, within medium density residential, there's several options that we can possibly look at. So one is looking at just straight up single family 2, which is what Pembroke is zoned as, and everything else. That would have a consistent character throughout the whole area, but the concern would be then when you have like towers or structures or uses that are not necessarily in line with that quite yet, you'd have an incomplete and kind of inconsistent kind of character in the area, and it wouldn't be necessarily great. And you're right next to train tracks as well, so you have like that, and it's an active train track as well, so you have that to consider in that situation. Secondly, you have residential office. This would be something where it'd be kind of a tweener zone, where if we decide to continue to develop this section and use this zone for the village, that would have the ability of having some commercial office type spaces along with some more high dense residential uses in the area. And that might be an appropriate way of transitioning it from like light industrial to something that's less intense but not quite as incompatible with some of the uses that are currently there. So it might be a good compromise for that. Another one that's been kind of floated around was like general business. That's an option. However, I don't know if it's necessarily an improvement on light industrial, because you're trading one type of intensity for a different type of intensity. So you may not have like the pounding and the noise and the dust and everything else like that, or like outdoor storage, but you will have potentially more head beam lights coming in from a parking lot, or downlighting from parking lots, or garbage trash receptacles, and like just those type of issues, or higher traffic and everything else. And if you look at Victoria, I don't necessarily think it has the character of a commercial district. It's just, it doesn't seem to have that type of feature for that type of space. And then the other option is industrial office, which when you look at it, is slightly less intense than light industrial. However, many of the types of uses that could be done there would still lead to potentially noise issues, dust issues, and sound issues. It just would be less intense, and it expands some of the definitions for some of the office uses that could be there. So that's kind of like the list of our options there. I can give you a recommendation of what I think would make sense. But like any of these things could work, but it's just I think there's some that fit better than others.
Did you consider multifamily?
That was something that we discussed in the past, was doing like a multifamily type thing. You still have the situation of, like there could be an option, but you still have the situation of certain structures that exist within the area being kind of an incompatible situation where you have towers or buildings or something like that, like next to that type of development. It could be an option though, yeah.
I guess my thought has been the way they're putting up these senior developments, that would be a nice place for one. It's a little kind of off, and as long as it isn't one where it's just assisted living and these people can't move out or walk. If it's a place to live for seniors, then there's customers for a downtown someday. That would be fairly dense and a lot of people. All my thinking of this all goes towards trying to make downtown a place again. So my thought was people. So would that fall under residential office for that type of use?
Let me take a quick look at the
Versus multifamily, because it's not like it's an apartment complex per se, but
it'd probably be like a multi-family type development. I'd imagine if I'll look at these districts real quick and see if there's like a specific call out for one of these for like convalescent homes or anything like that, or like a retirement community or something. But I don't disagree with your thinking, because I know originally we were kicking around ideas, medium density or multifamily residential is something we were thinking about as well for that district. So
We
it's-
did eliminate residential office from our future land use map, so it would be something we'd have to re-add in there.
So the future land use map, we try to keep more generic, so having like medium density residential, how we have a designation, we kind of combine things within umbrellas. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna eliminate it from the zoning districts. I know one thing that I was proposing originally was like in the general commercial, you have a general commercial, you have a small business commercial, you have industrial office, you have all these different types of districts that all have kind of like, could have a similar character. And like maybe it would make sense to find like, let's see, instead of having 4 districts, boil it down to 2 districts. And just being a little more generalized. But let me see if residential office and what would be another one? Probably.
Well, that's the end of my questions. Rachel, you got anything?
Even if we did multifamily down Victoria, we couldn't like specify senior living, it would be open to any.
Well, that's why I was wondering if that was something that fell in that residential office as
Okay.
being, you know, a thing that is, you do there. Maybe it can't be as tall, you know, it can't be 3 stories or nothing. Maybe it's a single story, because it's, I didn't go find a nice definition of residential office before I came, sorry, but that was my thought, was that maybe that fits in with residential office.
So residential office, I just looked at the ordinance, as a permitted use, it allows single family, it allows 2 family dwellings, it allows multiple family dwellings, and multiple family dwellings consist of congregate elderly housing, independent elderly housing, state licensed family daycare homes, state licensed residential facilities. Yeah, and then anything else that you would imagine for like multiple family dwellings, 2 family dwellings, those like duplexes, stuff like that. So it allows for quite a bit of range in terms of residential development if we did the residential office designation. What residential office also gets you is general office buildings for administrative, governmental, clerical, sales offices, and similar uses, professional office buildings such as engineers, architects, attorneys, accountants, designers, which is actually what's being proposed in another location off of Main Street that's been for sale for a while, but is considered potentially being a designer building for the new use. You have service offices for real estate offices, insurance, let's see, personal service establishments, like shoe repair, and photographer studios and barbershops, along with, like I said, the rest of the residential type of stuff that you can do.
Medical, doctor, dental?
Yeah.
Wow,
So-
that could be a heck of a huge development if somebody did a nice mixed use across all that space.
And that's something where if you do residential office, it becomes like a pretty broad umbrella, and wherever it makes sense, people can develop what they want within that Victoria Street stretch. With any of the land, they can assemble land if they want to and start purchasing land if they think of some type of grandiose idea. But yeah, the sky's the limit, really.
Are you set, Rachel?
Mm-hmm.
Tracy?
I'm good.
Mr. Gilpin?
I'm thinking, you know, that residential office may be because it does take in a lot of different.
Yeah, I didn't realize what all encapsulated in residential office.
Yeah, yeah. The 1 or 2 businesses that exist right now, which is of concern to the people who are, how did that, I see Sean's memo that he sent out, and, you know, talking about grandfathering them in and stuff of that nature, because they normally wouldn't be a permitted use of residential office.
As far as I know, I'm not 100% sure what they're doing inside the building currently.
I think it's more auto repair than anything.
Auto repair or something. Yeah, most likely would not be something that residential office would permit. However, like Sean probably said in that memo, they would be grandfathered in. They'd be allowed to continue their use. There might be some limitations in terms of if they want to expand the building, but they can continue to repair or reface or whatever they want to do for the outside structure and maintain it. And then even if they sold it, it'd still be able to continue as whatever use is there, as long as it doesn't, let's say, sit vacant or inoperable for 6 months. After 6 months, then it has to follow the new zoning ordinance. So if we rezone it, it wouldn't render their use null and void, or they'd have to vacate.
The one business that was operating there, because I drive every street and see what's going on. Yeah, he's probably not operating legally. You know, he's operating on the backside of what used to be a storage facility for the old King's Animal ration.
Is that what it used to be?
Yeah. So, you know, he really doesn't have a storefront. You know, walk through the front door, I need my oil change, I need my brakes fixed. It's not that type of operation. You know? Okay.
You're up.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, I love the idea of residential office, I think. Do really nice things for that. That's true.
I mean, if we did that, I mean, and the village could put together a little marketing plan of that area, that might take care of that guy wanting to leave if we had a buyer that would come in there. That could be a heck of a nice, and you tie it into the depot with a railroad theme and heck, get yourself an old car and a restaurant, stick it on there.
Good luck with the restaurant, but
I don't know. I think you could put a dog food place for me to eat. I'd probably go to it, especially if they served me a beer here. I would run. You know, all we got is Carter's, and that's it.
Tony.
I
Oh,
don't
no, don't beer it.
Well, Coney's never open. I'm getting back to the village.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
Breakfast and lunch.
I'm going at 6:30 and back late. He's already back in bed by the time I get back.
So,
Any other thoughts on this?
you
Everybody?
made a comment earlier to the gentleman that we have to start this process all over.
Because we've changed what we were putting it as. If we're going to change it from what we originally asked, we can continue with that.
Okay.
But if we change it to something, we've got to republish it and re-let people know that it's something different than we originally proposed. And I don't know, maybe this might be a little bit more palatable to some people.
Yeah,
And
because
then I also think-
specifically in the public hearing notice, we said light industrial, single family.
I was gonna say, I wasn't sure if we said single family, if we just said residential. If
No,
it was
it
just
specifically
residential, it'd be
says-
broad enough, but I feel like if it's single family, we have to renotice it.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion to,
Yes, so we can start that process, have a public hearing, get that rolling again. Did you have a motion in order that you wanted to, or do we have a template of our last one? What meeting was that at? I don't even remember.
I think it was at the September meeting.
That'll give us a blueprint to follow of what we did before.
Yeah, the motion then was to set a public hearing, specify the date for rezoning of the parcels listed below. And then we named each parcel and what we're zoning them to.
So we would do that for the next meeting.
It's possible we could, what kind of days notice do we have to give if we were to have it at the next?
She has to notify everyone.
Yeah, it
Around
probably
the
won't be
property.
March, it would have to be April, because she's got to notify everybody around the property, right? So she'll be.
Oh, you mean, we'd have to go to, instead of, we couldn't do
It
it for
might be
the,
March.
it's not that many people for that property, is
It's
it?
just those three, we might be okay with March.
And it should be a repeat of whatever
Was it
labels would
300
be.
feet?
Yeah, I think it's 300 feet, and then we got to get it published, but we can do that in the morning,
is that a 15-day?
15 days.
So there's
So we
probably,
could
there's
make-
time to do it by March.
Yeah.
Yeah. We couldn't do it for the special that's thought of, but we could definitely do it for March, right?
So that puts us at March 1st.
I don't know, to me, it seems like a very exciting, for even the people that live there, that would make that versus a lot sale. It would be something more mixed use, it would probably up the dollar value to uplift them, right?
Yeah. So is there a motion in order?
That, someone makes it.
I'll make a motion that we schedule a public hearing for the March planning commission meeting. Rachel's gonna provide the wording.
March 1st at 7 PM for the parcels. Do you want to name the parcels?
Yeah, we probably should list those parcels and do we have to specify the intent
Yes.
of a residential office?
Yeah, from light industrial to residential office. So I'm going to read the parcel numbers just so we can get it on the record. So it's parcel 0633226018, parcel 0633226019, and parcel 06332522-012. From light industrial to residential office.
Is there support?
I'll support that.
A roll call, please.
Chris Dilbert.
Yes.
Rachel Woodsett. Yes. Rob Pennell.
Yes.
Lucy Nolan Bilbert.
Yes.
And Tracy Bunkowski.
Yes.
All ayes, passes. Okay. Item number 2 under old business, master plan presentation, adoption, discussion, and action.
So, you guys should have received the draft, the final draft of the master plan. Our graphics designer guy, that's his official title. Put together a document here. He did it both in Adobe, but also he was able to create a template of it for Word, so that way we'd be able to still update it if we wanted to without the use of Adobe props. So you'll see it's kind of restylized a little bit. We had limited photos in terms of what was available on Facebook and Google and in our archives. If you guys have photos that you'd like to share with us, like we're open with that, we could insert them throughout the document. And if that is the case, feel free to email me whatever photos you have, or if you want to create like a Google Drive link and like send it to me, I can give that to our graphics guy and he can input those. But the document itself reflects much of what we've kind of discussed for the last like year and a half or so. The goals and objectives have been updated. Everything's pretty much up to date except for the decrees, the motions, and everything else that we'll need from when we finally do the actual adoption, because like that's going to be made by council. And once we get those documents, we'll put those into the documents so that way it's all up to date there too. The table of contents needs to be updated still as well, but everything else should be all up to date. And then the appendix has a couple things I need to remove there, but it has all of our public outreach and everything else that we did before that is all in the appendix. At least in the draft document that I have. I can resend to you guys if you don't have it. So, if there's anything that you guys found or have comments on, please feel free to share that with me. And then I'll take note of that and make sure it gets updated as we continue to go through this process. So.
I mean, for me, to be honest, since we got it this week, I did not read through it. I only got a paper copy today, and I'm still a paper guy to make notes on.
That's what I definitely requested this.
And thank you for.
I think this end of the table over here is a little more digital than here over.
I did have a concern with the goals and objectives being like this, and they got cut off.
So that's something where however they created the document originally, when I edited it and everything else, it was like an Excel document within a Word document. It was really strange how it was formatted. And it got formatted weird when we tried to print it out because it wanted to be landscape, but the whole document's in portrait. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to take the document and those specific pages we're going to print out as like a fold out. So that way we can just like have it so you can actually look at it in like a more normal kind of.
I figured it was just.
Yeah,
somewhere.
I was able to turn just those pages on mine, but.
I was able to do that too. I was able to turn it in Word
Okay.
to landscape document, or landscape to those specific pages.
Yeah, but anybody that asked for a hard copy is gonna get cut off on the goals and
Yeah,
objectives.
right.
Yeah, so when we went to go to a PDF, it would definitely have to be reformatted somehow.
Yeah, and that's what we'll do is we'll be able to insert the stuff and then we'll make it so it's a fold out. And then we'll give you guys a handful of like printed copies or like nice and bound with like the fold out and everything else in there. It should look better that way.
Is there, I mean, because like my first impression right off the bat is the New Haven logo looks, ugh. You know, like, it's really bad. You know, can we get a new piece of art of that? The New Haven logo?
What's wrong with it?
What's wrong with it?
Well, this is what I was given.
Well, that says 2015, 2019 on it, so that's the
Oh,
old
so
one.
did you print me a better one
I
then?
printed you this one.
Oh, good, I'm giving this back to Genevieve then.
That's her old one, that was what we've been working off.
Right,
This is
that's
the
what-
new
Oh,
one.
This was in her box, so I thought that she was, oh, good. Well, that looks a little nicer. The logo is in focus too. So
I'll
here,
go grab the other copy.
I'll trade you. Give that back to, you don't want that, just give it back to Jen.
There's a few things that I came across, and I'm gonna start with the front page. I don't know what neighborhood that is,
Where's this at?
So
but
that's
it should be
something.
reflective of something in New Haven.
Yeah, and that's something where like I was talking to our graphics guy and like that's not New Haven.
That's
And
not
it's
New
like I put a stock photo in there because I didn't have anything that would blow up that nice to that size of a page. I'm like, well, let me see if I can solicit photos from the group to see if there's something that's an actual picture of New Haven for the color.
Cole's got some great drone shots of the village.
Even page 10, you know, that's an antique photo of Fountain Park. That sign doesn't even exist anymore.
Oh, that made it from the old version.
But,
That doesn't look anything like our new Fountain Park.
but, you know, in going through this document, the one thing that I realized and I noticed is that a lot of information is gathered from SimCog.
Yeah.
And SimCog typically gathers their information from public records, which may or may not be updated,
Oh, really?
okay? Because, I mean, I've gone through here and I highlighted a few things that I know not to be accurate.
What page?
Well, let's start on page 16, just the table 4, the age of the life cycle.
16.
Those numbers I know are not correct.
Oh, life cycle.
You know, the age groups and whatnot.
You know, I kind of questioned that too, Chris, but I'm wondering, if you notice, it says 2019.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's close enough to us, and from 2010 to, say, preschool age, from 2010 to 2019, we didn't lose preschoolers,
No, they're all over the place.
okay?
We lose high schoolers.
Okay, we didn't lose 5 to 19-year-olds. Okay, I mean, we've grown, you know, over 2,000 residents.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that's, you know, doesn't really matter. It's for, you know, information.
Well, it makes a big difference to somebody that wants to invest money though.
Exactly. And even going further on page 17, when you look at the income and poverty stats, you know, they say that the average median household income has gone down. Crap. Okay?
That doesn't-
There's no way it has gone down and we're selling $300,000 homes.
I thought all those same things, but I guess, I'm not making excuses for this, but this says 2019, and I think you and I are thinking about what's happened in 20 and latter part of 20 and 21. But even 19 is a little,
Yeah.
the income is not, I agree, I know what you're
There's a
saying.
lot of stuff that, like I said, the SimCog is a good organization, but sometimes their information,
Yeah, it doesn't make no
It's
sense.
so
to me
different.
either.
on page 19, it's telling me that in 2010, the median housing value was $132,000, and in 2019, it's only $120,000. And we know that's not true.
Right,
I mean, in 2018, they started redoing Decorah Park, and they were selling them at a
Yeah.
minimum of $250 a pop.
Exactly. So there's a lot of those things in there that just kind of stood out to me. And the one that made, it talks about the water and sewer capacity of the village. And,
Where's that at, Mr. Grover?
yeah. I thought I put a mark by it. And it's saying that the village is on the verge of maxing out their sewer capacity.
I sure hope that's not accurate.
And I know that's not accurate.
Well, it's not, it's based on our engineers told us when Meadow Creek experienced.
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. And last year, I was called down to the Public Works office because they wanted to transfer some of our capacity to some neighboring communities. So I know we have excess capacity.
so where did that data come from, John? Just, can you, like, just the water part alone, can you provide that
The
info?
water part came from what was ever in the previous plan.
Water doesn't concern me.
Water's right, or
It doesn't concern me. We have, with our system, we can pump enough water to sewer capacity.
Or water or sewer, either or.
Yeah.
I guess we need to, if that came from the old document, then that's probably needed to be,
Yeah, and the
I
thing
guess
is
I
like,
just think it was,
I wasn't aware of if there's any improvements or anything like that for that specific area. So, what page was that on again?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it for some reason. It's not jumping out at me like it did the other day when it got.
well, the Gratiot Interceptor went online in when? 2009, 2010?
Somewhere back in there.
So it should have been a big rise from that point.
That should have been taught in the last master plan too, if that was the case, because that was after that.
I would think, I'm pretty positive that was live by then.
Yeah, it was. And
Yeah, it was live before I left office, that was 2010.
even the pages that talk about the floodplains and whatnot, which doesn't necessarily, I don't think it's actually a concern of the master plan, but it should be a concern for the village itself. The one thing we noticed when we did the sidewalk project on Haven Ridge and right there by the bridge, HUD would not fund so many feet of the sidewalk project because they said it was in the floodplain. Well, I'm 66 years old, I've never seen a flood in this village. Okay, on the worst rain occurrence, that creek has never, ever, and that creek is 12 feet down from the roadway, and that creek probably only rises maybe 2-3 feet at the most.
Which
Okay?
creek are we talking about?
The Shook Drain. No, I'm sorry, not the Shook Drain, but the Salt River. Okay? And so when we were doing that sidewalk project on Elk and Haven Ridge, you know, they wouldn't fund within 200 or 300 feet of the drain, so we had to pay for it out of our own pockets, okay, because it said it was in the floodplain. And so that's a FEMA issue that we need to get these flood maps updated, which will also help the residents who live in that area as far as flood insurance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where you probably can test the 100-year floodplain
Yeah.
maps.
I mean, I'm not 100 years old, but I'm close to it. And
You look damn good for it.
I mean, even on Clark Street by the cemetery bridge, you know, that roadway is, you know, probably 12, 15 feet above the creek, and it has never overflowed the banks.
And maybe that hasn't been updated since it was the old road either,
It hasn't.
because the old road did, but,
But, yeah. So, I mean, like I said, you know, I totally understand SIMCOG and how they gather their information, but sometimes their information is not always the most accurate.
we got the Encyclopedia of New Haven here, so that's better than their info.
That's on page 43, Chris, the water. The page 43 is the water and sewer, and it also says negative things about the water as well. I mean, we know we have water, but this doesn't say that. This says that we're prone to frequent
There it is.
failures,
Thank you.
chronic low pressure, frequent ruptures of water mains. So
And thank you for finding that for me, because I did have a star by it. The Village of New Haven, probably 95% of their mains are less than the age of our oldest development, which would be Amherst, was the original development. And Amherst is how old?
20.
20. So 95% of our mains are less than 20 years old. There was a time when we would have, right here at this intersection, five, 6 winters ago, we popped probably half a dozen main breaks within a 24-hour period. Then we went through the Wharf project and we replaced all the water mains. And I think we've only had one main break within the village, which was on the Haven Ridge by the factory right on Haven Ridge at the foot of Prospect. That's the only main break we've had, besides the one that was blown on Park Street because of the hydrant, function. But I guess my point being is, our water mains are probably the tightest water mains in the county,
Bet you it is.
okay? Because
You should say that.
Because everything on this side, pretty much everything on this side of the tracks was replaced in 2000, when did President Obama come in office?
2008, 2009.
Yeah.
2000.
Exactly. And of course, we know stuff that's out in Amherst and Pembroke and the Chorus new. And I think half of the Chenault subdivision is new because when Lovardo built Amherst, he had to run through the Chenault subdivision, so all that was replaced and upsized.
And all that sewage over there was replaced while I was on council too. That
Exactly.
every backyard all the way through was,
And
the sewer was
we
replaced.
did a SAW project a couple of years ago, and we cambered all of our sanitary, and we found no major deficiencies in our sanitary system.
I remember that.
So this is a place for us to really say, hey, we're great.
We really are. From an infrastructure standpoint, the village is in a lot better shape than most communities.
It should at least be factual.
No?
It should at least be factual, whatever it is.
Yes.
Good, bad,
Yes.
or ugly. I'm glad that it's good, but
Whatever we put out there should be accurate too.
Yes.
I want to stick my name out.
And there's.
On something, find out there's just full of junk.
so then I guess we all need some more time.
Yeah, we sure do, don't we? We all need to read through it page by page.
So,
Because I know
that
I
specific
was zeroed in
section,
on certain things.
I'd love to, you guys have specific feedback, like what language you'd like to see in there that reflects So if you have like the history of like what was updated in terms of the water capacity, the sewer capacity, if you have like specific dates and projects and stuff.
We have those records here.
Yeah, so if you like just send me the narrative, I can make the language and put it in there and update that portion of the document. As for the other statistics, yeah, SEMCOG, they usually source their data from the census, and then they do their own projections, their own jiggering with it. I just looked at the census data. It looks like for the median income, this most recent census showed that it was $60,924. However, what SEMCOG did do was that they had a typo in their data. They had 67,000 for the 2010 stat data. The 2010 data was actually 57,000. So it was just, they put a 6 instead of a 5. So then that data was put into this document. So the actual data should be, for the 2010 median income was 57,000. For the 2020 data, it's 60,000. So it went up.
Those people are house poor then.
The census.
I don't think they are.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, that isn't necessarily super off par with what the rest of the county is. I believe it's above like national statistics, because national statistics, I believe, like mid-50s, low 50s per median household income. So like we're doing better overall, but it looks like a small statistic.
Well, I always thought that SEMCOG also projected for, I mean, it'd be nice to see projections of what 2021 were, because I'll tell you what, go trick or treat over in those new neighborhoods. There's top shelf liquor at every house over there. I mean, there's no.
Candy, Rob, candy.
Well, these people do both.
Yeah, big candy bars.
I'm telling you, big candy bars and top shelf
I can see
liquor.
why nobody comes to our meeting.
Are you serving coffee over there, Hold on.
Brian sends out a page. It tells you everywhere to
Right.
go get booze.
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate for Surmed to supply you with the water and sewer?
Yeah, if he's
Maybe
got
if
the
you wanna-
data.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to reach out to him?
Sure,
or-
we can do that.
Okay, I think that would probably
Could you see
be,
that one statement that,
they're pretty, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't read this, there were other areas I was focused on, and that's why we're a team, everybody's got a different expertise, but these are really negative statements.
Yeah.
Both of them.
based on current engineering reports, the village is over capacity and additional developments, primarily residential, will further stress an already overburdened system. And that is not an accurate statement.
No, it's not.
No.
Yeah,
not
but
the
low water
summary.
pressure isn't either. We probably have the lowest in our subdivision.
Because we're the highest elevation. Yeah.
Right, and it's adequate, it's good, but it's not like wonderful.
Yeah.
You come up on Gratiot, it's wonderful.
But the standard is only, what, 35 PSI? Something like
Yeah,
that?
something like that, yeah.
Okay, and I think we typically are pumping, I think we keep our system down back to like 55 PSI. You know?
When I moved here, I ripped all those little filters out of every damn thing so I could get some water in it. I have since put them back in, otherwise it's splashing my face, so we got water pressure.
Yeah, everybody up here is doing.
So John, with all this being said,
Yep.
so we are having this discussion,
Yep.
and at what point do we attempt to upgrade the information, and then this board has to approve, and then we send it to council
Yeah,
for?
so ultimately, like, once this is updated, which I'll get on this, and it'll be done before the next meeting, it'll be updated. And then, you review it again, if you like what you see for the overall document, then you make a recommendation to council to, adopt it, at which point we then have the adoption, and we have, you release it for public review, and you have a public hearing, and then eventually it goes through like a 60-day public review by the neighboring communities and jurisdictions, and then eventually it's adopted after that 60-day period. Bless you.
Bless you. So hence maybe having another 2 weeks to have a meeting and come back with more we need to fix. And then maybe by the time we get to the March meeting, we've got something that we can
That's on the document.
approve.
Do we want to pick that date now? I recommend that we do.
I won't be here.
Me either.
You guys don't even know the date yet.
Well, he said 2 weeks.
Well, 2 weeks
Well,
is my birthday, so I won't be here.
You could still
Mid of the
submit,
month.
yeah. Well, what if we?
You tell us when we're
How
usually
much-
here.
Wait, a better question is how much time does John need?
I can get it done. If there are like smaller changes, like the water section, I can, as long as I work with some Matt, I can get that pumped out pretty quick.
I mean, if you provide him with some verbiage, right, it's kind of,
The water stuff will be pretty simple to do with him. The data, I'll double check that stuff, that'll take me a day to go through. It's more so, I think more so the graphics part that I'm more concerned about in terms of if there's images that you want in addition, or different images, that stuff I would need, and then like give it to the graphics team, and then we have 2 people who do graphics, and certain departments get priority over us, so I need like to push it. So,
can I do the graphics within the Word document myself?
um,
Or my kid? I mean, my kid he can make up some nice stuff that boy.
so if that is the case, what I would say is then what we can do is we do all the text edits, and then when we get to the graphics portion, once all the text is final, then we can do the graphics. So that way when it's put in there, it wouldn't have to be reformatted again once we change the text again.
Because he can do that for us very quickly, and we don't have to worry about somebody else's schedule, because I'll just yell at him. Like I need to. I'm very lucky that I got straight.
But in terms of my edits, that'd be pretty quick. So and if we're looking at doing the images and put that way, then that'd be a lot quicker too.
Because a lot of these pictures that are the village, they're really blurry.
Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot to work with, unfortunately. So most of the images that we found online were from cell phones, unfortunately, and it's just when you blow those things up.
Did you check the village webpage? Because Ann, I always forget her name, takes
Ann Lawson?
wonderful pictures of us.
Yeah.
And they're always posted on our Facebook page.
So we looked at the Facebook page, and I forgot what. I'll have to talk to Matt and see if there's anything else on there, because he said most of them, he was saying were cell phone images, and there's a little about they're very pixelated. But if there's other ones from Ann, I also don't know like what resolution they were uploaded onto the website with, because it might have been compressed for the website. So I don't know if somebody has the full scale images or something like that.
So we all got a decent document to work off of to make some serious edits to. And relay that to Jen to relay to our missing comrades. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about on the master plan?
If at the next meeting, we all bring the changes, can we approve with those changes?
Well, we have to
Well, I don't know if we should
set the
approve
public
it,
hearing.
but we can send it forth for the March meeting to approve it, right?
So after the changes are made, we then set the public hearing, right?
Let me look into explicitly what that process looks like, and I'll get an email to you guys out tomorrow that'll say what the process will look like to get it adopted fully. But yeah, I know there's a public hearing, I know there's a 60-day review period. I just gotta figure out which one comes first. But yeah, like if we have a special meeting, you come with your edits, I'll have it done by the March meeting, and we could recommend approval of this master plan with these edits, type of thing. And then the document doesn't necessarily need to be completely final when it gets released. It's like if we want to update the images, that's not changing the content of the document, that's just the graphic quality of it. If you're talking about like actually changing maps and stuff like that, then you're changing the content, or text. But
So I guess with the public hearing we're having next month for the parcels on Victoria, is that going to be reflected in future land use on here, or, okay?
yeah.
'Cause I wasn't sure because you said it's changing
Yeah,
maps.
so the future land use already what's shown in the future land use map will be covered. Because it says medium density residential, And that's what we would consider RO to be.
Okay.
Residential office would be medium density residential. It's kind of an all-encompassing designation.
Because the future land map, as we've discussed, is in here, isn't it? Didn't I see
It
that?
should be in there, yeah.
Well, talking maps and talking of the character areas, that looks like a pretty grainy map as well, where some of them are that were replaced are really nice and crisp.
Which ones were in there?
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that one. I can actually remove that one because we weren't really talking about character areas in this
Okay.
master plan. That was an old concept, and I was hoping to remove that one on there. So I'll remove that. I believe actually the most recent draft that I have here, it doesn't have a character areas map on there.
Yeah, because I saw like existing zoning, I mean, that's a nice map, that's crisp,
Yeah.
you can read the streets even, and
And that's the other thing too, is like when you, the other thing too, the quirk with like printing from Word sometimes is for some reason, and I don't know why it does it, but it'll pick certain things to have a lower resolution, and then some things will be high resolution. It's very inconsistent. It's like a weird quirk of the programming, or the coding that's within the document. And like you print it again, and it'll like flip which ones are high resolution and which ones are low resolution. That's
So-
why like, I don't like working in Word, and the other products are better, but, and I know it's not public record, but.
So I happen to have been flipping by
Locations
the
coming in.
existing zoning as Rob had mentioned it,
Yeah.
and this is not correct.
Okay,
The existing zoning map, just looking at the property on Gratiot and Clausen as one big residential office. That was actually parceled, split, and then split further into 3 off of Clausen.
Oh, yeah.
And this is completely incorrect.
if you can draw that,
Yep,
and then I'll take a photo of it, and then I'll make the edit and the update on that.
that's not
So-
even residential office anymore, it's something else.
it's residential.
Single-family residential, yeah.
So a lot of times, like, our source stuff for this type of thing is also, well, whatever was sent to us from the registers at the county. So sometimes those records aren't updated, or they were never officially sent in to our department, so they weren't communicated in the same database. So there could be a lag there as well.
It'll be really embarrassing, because we're the ones that changed it. It's not right.
Okay,
So everybody's got to dig. Is there anybody else that wants a full written copy that don't have one? Everybody's good? So would we, from this portion, like to set the meeting, our next meeting? Is there a date open? You guys going on a vacation, huh? So what do you got open?
Well, even time the 15th,
15th to the,
first,
wow, that's a nice vacation.
long overdue.
Damn.
And you're taking me because my birthday's the 15th, right?
Is it the 15th?
Mm-hmm.
A happy birthday.
Thank you.
Finally made
Yeah.
25, huh?
Yes, finally.
Not early.
Yeah, then we don't have much opportunity. I guess it's gonna have to be via email as far as getting these things into. Because both of you are gone?
Yep. Pray for me.
It's just it's
Well, you say.
a family vacation?
Pray for me, not because of her, but because of her husband.
Oh,
I knew who you meant.
We don't have bunk beds though, right? You made sure there weren't any bunk beds?
Oh, God.
well, that's why I'm wondering if we get, if John gives us a date that he needs it by, can we just send him everything?
Well, I mean, we could have another hash out. We get your comments and then have a hash out with people really that aren't here. So they have their input before the March meeting. Because both of you would probably be ready to be ready by the 15th, right?
Oh, yeah.
So maybe if we set something within that week so that Craig and Jen relay their comments in a public forum with us, and we will already have their changes to work with. How's that work?
So the 16th?
16 works for me. Oh, no, it doesn't. Damn. Oh, wait, yeah, it works for a 7 o'clock meeting. That's a bowling night.
Does the 16th work for you?
Yeah.
We're making an assumption on Craig and Jen at this
Yeah.
point, so,
So if we make the motion, then, I mean, she'll have to cancel it if they can.
Yep.
If it ends up not being a workable date, but at least we can try.
okay.
So a motion?
I don't think we need to make a motion for that, we're still in order.
No, just make
No,
a
I
suggestion there.
don't
Okay.
think it's the motion of all plans.
Then I'll just send her a note. The 16th is good for 3 of us.
At 7 still?
So where are you guys going and sleeping in bunk bed?
Kim?
I don't know, she's talking about bunk beds.
Well, I can't smell, so I can take a bottle. Okay, moving forward, we have new business, election of officers, discussion and action. I did ask Jen, since she isn't here, if she's willing to continue the position, and she said yes. I don't know, was our clerk forced to?
Yep. I'll make a motion to keep the same slate of officers that we currently have, so that's Jonathan, he is the president, you're the vice, or, I'm sorry, chairperson, vice, and, your secretary.
Yep.
I second that. Okay.
I don't think that is my thing. Oh, yeah, it is.
Vice or co, one of the,
It used to be co, this one says vice, I've never written it anyway. Do we have a second? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Community parks.
Thank you. It's kind of a coincidence that I asked this to be put on the agenda, and then shortly thereafter I started hearing, I saw a Facebook comment about a dog park, and I started hearing rumors about the 47 acres and whatnot. But as part of this master plan, you know, they talk about parks and recreation and green spaces and whatnot. And I think it goes so far as to pretty much say that the planning commission should be the lead applicant for green space and parks. And it's been no secret as to my desire to develop the 47 acres, or at least a portion of the 47 acres, into a full-service park for the residents of the village. And I certainly realize that 47 acres has a lot of wetland, which is conducive to a park, in so much as we don't have to be as concerned as a developer as far as disturbing that wetland. We have the ability to make that wetland work for us as far as walking trails and stuff of that nature. I think at some point this board needs to pick an area, whether it's the 47 acres, and send it to council for formal adoption. Back in 2013, there was a resolution passed that designated that 47 acres as a park. That resolution, I don't know if it still exists or if the current council rescinded it. I don't know. And if they haven't, it's still in the books. And when I talk about the 47 acres, the back part of it, the part that goes back by the mailboxes in Amherst, that right there, I would not want to develop as a park. Okay? sites that could be sold off to a developer for construction,
The ones that face the road there.
uh,
The ones that are facing the, I can't think of the street name.
That's West Brockton there.
yeah,
So the ones that are facing where everybody parks.
yeah,
That's it. Yep. That's it.
yeah.
West Brockton.
But the part that comes off of Park Street and the wooded area and the wetlands, I think is a golden opportunity to develop that as a park, a much needed park. And when I say a much needed park, a park that would have facilities that we currently don't have. You know, I'm not looking to duplicate what's on Haven Ridge, but put something that's totally different, like say Haven Ridge has basketball courts. Don't put basketball courts on Park Street, okay? When I had put together a committee to start doing some exploring, there were a lot of things that had been suggested, and one thing that had been suggested was a curved tennis court that could be flooded in the wintertime as ice skating rink. Okay. Now, we used to have one in the buildings behind the administration building.
And the high school could have tennis back.
Okay. Along with a nice walking trail, along with a dog park, along with some nice playscape. And at some point in time, if it's laid out properly, possibly something on the scale of a splash pad. Okay. There are grant monies that are out there that are available. I constantly get emails showing who's receiving grants. I think Inlet City just got a grant for $150,000 for a splash pad. Some of these grants are
Out
matching.
there, all grant money that Trombley got for the Lennox Park.
Oh,
You
there's-
didn't pay for that.
There's tons of grants out there, okay? But the one thing that we have failed is that our Park and Rec plan is about ready to expire.
It's gone.
And so we need to make sure that is updated and put back in place so that we make ourselves eligible for grants. And then just recently, and I don't know if it's fact or fiction, I just heard that Lombardo rescinded their initial offer for the 47 acres, and they've come back with what I consider a slap in the face offer of $40,000. So if that's the case, then I'm gonna make a offer slightly higher than that. And I'll just buy the property for my own personal use. Because what they're talking about, $40,000 for 47 acres is an insult.
Sure is.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking is, this board right here need to make a decision. Are we gonna be the advocates for additional park space in this community? And if we are, then we need to formally make a motion and send it to council, and let's get council to act. You know, either act or get off the pot.
Chris, what happened? There was a group that was meeting every month
Mhm.
about that. What happened to that group?
The administration, is my understanding, the administration, what's the word?
Disbanded?
Disbanded.
Okay.
Are we
But I
talking
mean-
the Parks and Rec, you mean?
No, there was a separate group,
Mhm.
because I was going, because they were really focusing on that property, and being that I lived there, I was going to those meetings because I just was interested. So what happened? I mean, they were formally disbanded?
That's what I was told. I don't know that to be fact or fiction.
Do you know this? I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, for me, I've always been a very strong proponent, just the opposite, because I want to see rooftops and houses, and something that, whether true or not true, that caught my attention was that the home sizes and the things that Lombardo was targeting for that area is definitely not going to bring any kind of tax revenue dream come true, for sure. And then now you're telling me that the amount of property is decreasing as well from,
It's my understanding that they rescinded their offer because they did their own study and they realized that the wetland the percentage of that property, which is wetland, was far greater than what they had anticipated.
I sure hope the village doesn't take that as being some kind of gospel of
You know,
somebody that wants to buy it here. It's pretty worthless. We'll take it off your hands for
the
free.
bottom line is, I think we've all been proponents of rooftops, but a community without park space, I don't think will be a everlasting, sustainable community. Okay? You know, we're over 6,000 people right now with one park, while two developments have open spaces. You know, like the Cora has an open green space, but you know, there's a playground there. Amherst has a pool and you know, a couple things. Pembroke literally has nothing. It has a little playscape, a little mini playscape.
Two
Yeah.
Yeah.
minis.
So you know, having a nice park to host events and reunions and for people to turn their dogs loose and for families to walk, and I think those are the kind of things that every community embraces. We just had the State of the Bay last Friday, and the president and two trustees were there. And every community that spoke at that event talked about their expanding their parks. Chesterfield just acquired another 30 acres. Lennox and what they're doing. New Baltimore is looking to expand and purchase some additional park space. Everyone talked about parks except for the village of New Haven. And why are we so, I don't want to say anti-park, but not a proponent? I mean, because I just saw where Macomb Township just spent $1 million to buy 30 acres to put on another park. Okay? We have a prime location, a prime spot, if done right, burned from the neighboring residents, put in, you know, the right equipment, the right hours of operation, so that it doesn't disturb the neighbors. I think we are in a perfect opportunity, a parcel of land that we own. You know, that cost us $600,000 20 years ago. And now we're looking to sell it for a fraction of that.
My other concern that's come to me is this place still has not been of any kind of fruitful decisions. I don't know how accurate that is.
It's been fruitful.
Well, for somebody,
Yeah, just not for the village.
but I mean, does the village still need a place to go?
Well, no, we have a lease that we're committed to for
Another 10 years.
life.
Life.
That, you know, no offense to this place, but it's designed for terribly. I mean, when you talk about that property, I mean, put our village hall there, make all that front nice open park space. It could be a beautiful, done right, you just said it, done right.
Done right.
It could be something pretty fabulous.
But what we need to do, the council needs to commit to it and hire a architect to design that property, to lay it out so that we can put in the infrastructure, and as monies become available, we can add the things that we want to add.
I think giving it away for how much? 40,000?
That's the last number I heard, that they withdrew their original offer and they came back with an offer of $40,000.
What was their last offer?
150? No, 200, 300?
I had heard something, I thought it was close to 300.
Yeah, whatever was listed for, 3
And
something.
that's half of what we paid for it at a time when property is selling high.
It sounds like a
But
shed.
you have to remember something though. yes, I agree with what you're saying, property's high right now, but there's so much money that has to be put into that property to develop it. So from a builder's standpoint, it's,
From a builder standpoint, I'm not faulting Lombardo.
Right.
I mean, but that's why the
Anyway.
last guy that looked at it, you know, walked away, 'cause I think he came back and said it was gonna cost him $2 million to put in the infrastructure.
right, because there's not sewer and water up there.
Yeah, just stubs.
But I mean, it's at the road, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has to put in streets and he has to put in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll disagree
But
with
from
that,
a
because you
business
can walk
standpoint-
that field and see the sewer grates.
And what that is when they put in, whether it's sewer water or storm water, they keep the pipe going to whatever the standard is, and they stop it. They just don't stop it where the sub ended, because they thought they were gonna develop at some point.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there were
But it-
definitely.
Yeah, I hear all kinds of, there's no infrastructure out there, but I can literally see the electrical box out my back door, and it hums when I walk over to it.
Right, same thing, yeah.
There's infrastructure out there, it's just not on.
So it sounds like the
It's just
assessment is
not on
coming
the-
from the side that
yeah.
wants to buy it cheap versus an assessment that we need of what it truly
It
is.
just hasn't been registered anywhere that there's infrastructure out there, but there is. I can see it.
But they have to, it's not just that.
It's
You gotta
probably a
continue
bit
through the
overgrown,
road.
it has to probably all be redone, because, I mean, it's been growing unchecked for 20 years.
Well, there's a tree growing out of the transformer at Decor Park. It's about 12, 13 inches wide, and
It sure is.
I'm waiting for that to shut off. Luckily, my power comes from the south.
But my whole point for you know, requesting that, you know, this be put on the agenda is that at some point, you know, I mean, I would like for the planning commission to, and I mean, I could be standing alone, but, you know, if we're gonna, take on our responsibilities, I think one of our responsibilities is to, try to push forward, and correct me, John, if I'm wrong, but I think this is a planning function to put forward the recreation opportunities.
Sure. Yeah, you can post whatever you like.
So,
I thought that responsibility would be Park and Rec.
I'm sorry.
What is Park and Rec's role, though?
Park and Rec, right now, their roles are very limited. They're more or less into hosting events.
Right, which is really not what the role of a Parks and Rec department is.
Well, because they were a new group up until 4 years ago, they didn't exist.
Right.
So, being a new group, their only responsibilities were, you know, pretty much just to try to create events.
Well, I'm under the impression that now, like, there's so many, like, the current, we'll say Haven Ridge Park, there's so many things there that need to be improved and updated, that's what, you know, that's their role.
It could
They
be,
need
I
to
mean, it's up to
assess,
the administration to give those,
develop.
you know, yeah, yeah.
We also talked about, you know, trying to acquire more space out that way to expand Haven Ridge. We've talked about that. But, I mean, I guess if you were to trade space of property we're gonna give away for, I'm gonna say pennies, granted it's $40,000 or whatever it is, versus, and putting the, versus giving it away. Maybe the area around Haven Ridge Park is the area that we hope for more
Well,
rooftops.
it's for sale for $1 million.
Oh, is it?
So do we want to spend $1 million
To expand that park?
to expand that park, or put the money into the 47 acres that we already own?
I think I'd rather push someone to buy it and develop it residentially over there than,
I'd rather, I mean, there was
and us
talk,
catch a deal.
there was talk from the apartment developer who's looking at the Haven Ridge property.
So you're looking for us to come up with a recommendation to council of what our thoughts and hopes?
And the only thing that we can do from the planning commission is send something to council, hoping that they adopt the 47 acre or any other parcel as a park, you know, designated as a park, and let's start working toward developing that.
I mean, I definitely, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if we can, 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 in looking at a cost of return, and the current proposal from Lombardo does not give us a greater return in tax dollars than a park would give us in enjoyment and happiness, and doing it at a rate that we could.
And I think a
Acquire
park in that
them cheap.
location would enhance the
Very
property values of the residents of the homes in Amherst and Pembroke in particular.
Anybody have thoughts and ideas? Is that something that you would want to?
I don't
Support.
disagree that we need more green space. I'm concerned that all of the parks are on this side of Gratiot. So if we're trying to get, and I know we can't do anything about Gratiot, but if we're trying to get like the whole community to be able to get into one area, we already have a park on this side of Gratiot. I almost feel like we need a park on that side of Gratiot, because, I don't know, I hate to think about kids crossing that road. I wouldn't even let my 15-year-old cross it.
Well, you know how
Well,
I
you
feel
know,
about that. We got to do something with Gratiot to turn it
Yeah,
into a
That's
more
true.
feasible.
But the fact of the matter is that 70% of this community, or 80% of this community, is on this side of Gratiot.
I can say that from being on that side of Gratiot, we are able to enjoy the school facilities.
Okay.
Many people to Core Park go and run the track, because they
That's
can
true.
just cut through the woods. Granted,
Exactly.
again, the woods are not the best place to cross through, because it floods and it's bad and it's not what it should be. But there is opportunities. I know kids go over there and play baseball on the diamonds. I've been trying to get them put into Core Park and never had any luck with that.
And the only large
There is a
parcel-
little bit of us on that side, but again, it goes to connectivity.
Yeah.
We need better connectivity than what we have for someone to bike around here and use any of it.
Sure.
And another concern that I have is the Haven Ridge facilities are always locked. I mean,
I thought they
What?
fixed that with,
We're in the process of.
we're in the
touch
process
buttons
of that, but
and-
the concern of opening the facilities is vandalism. So what's the concern not gonna be in another park?
But I would hope we would install the latest and greatest technology, whether it's cameras or electronic locking, and, I mean, you know, I mean, this is one of those things that you gotta give a lot of consideration to. I mean, like say Brandenburg Park, you know, it's locked after a certain hour, you know? You know, I mean, you can put in an ice skating rink up there with lights, and the lights go off at 10 o'clock. So that people aren't playing hockey or skating at all hours, you know? I mean, you know, there's things that you can do when you construct these things, you know?
Well, and I mean, our police protection should also be, I mean, I don't think you can say not have something for the fact of, unfortunately, vandalism, or, I mean, otherwise, what do you have? Nothing. I mean, for vandalism, we used to get vandalism at our gazebo in Decorah Park, because we always shooed everybody away from it. You can't go in there as kids and sit, you can't be there, you can't, well, their reaction was, well, let's knock out the thing. Now it's, hey, please go there, hang out, treat it nice, don't carve in it. And it's a much different reaction from the kids feeling like it's theirs to hang out there than it is to say, no, you can't touch it. It's a very, changing.
I just don't want to lose, I personally don't want to miss out on the opportunity for us to do something really, really beneficial to the residents. Because I would hate for us to miss these opportunities, and as these young families, the kids start growing up and they start realizing that their kids don't have the recreation opportunities, and then they start selling their homes and moving to, I mean, I know a couple that moved to Richmond that lived in my city, and their primary reason was there was not enough recreational opportunities.
I mean, I could definitely support, I'd like to see it explored better than what that, to me, it doesn't seem like it's really ever been explored.
Exactly.
And if the cost of return on it is from selling it, because again, I've always been more rooftops, more taxes, and then we can spend that money and to do more things, like acquiring a property.
But that's limited,
It
because we
doesn't-
only have so much property that we can acquire.
It doesn't sound like it sounds more like a freebie giveaway is coming up on it, and it's much more valuable to the residents than it is to get it.
To somebody that takes advantage every chance he gets in this village.
Yeah, and if I'm hearing 40 houses is all that there's space for,
Something like that.
and the estimated value of even of that is not very high either. So the house that's looking to be built there, I think would drag down the value of the houses that are already there.
With the lots that are still gonna be developed in Amherst, and with the expansion of Pembroke, and of course you got the current, construction going on, like in Decorah, we're probably still gonna gain another 200 homes.
If that was I'm just staring at this map and looking at Victoria Street, and if we could make our plans come to fruition on Victoria Street, and that down at the end of the street there is our pretty village offices and a beautiful state-of-the-art park, would that help change that landscape over there as well? I don't know, I think there's a lot to look at.
Yeah.
We should at least be chiming in on it before a sale's made.
And that's all I'm asking, is that we chime in on it.
What's everybody else's?
I think of three things, and one of them is I think we need to take better care of what we have to start with. So we don't really do a really good job of that here, from what I see. I observe it's driving around. So to
Such
add
as?
more,
Such as?
so to add more facilities, I just think like lawn and things like that could be a little bit neat and tidier than they are. I think we should take more pride in even our streets a little bit, picking up garbage and things like that. I know it's not, we don't have to, but I think it says a lot about our community if there's a lot of garbage in the road and we don't pick it up. And that's what I mean about taking care of it. So my concern is the park gonna be a mess?
I don't know,
So
I've used Haven Ridge a lot, and I've been very pleased with the upkeep on it.
Okay. This is my observance.
I'm
I'm just talking that one part, I don't know everywhere.
Sidewalks is super important. I think connectivity through the entire community, we do not have that.
Well, we've come a long ways.
I agree with you,
You can ride this whole community on pavement now.
but not
Sometimes
the
you gotta cross
sidewalk.
streets.
Huh?
Sometimes you have to cross the street to get to the sidewalk.
Not on both sides of the street.
Right. But it's,
But
I
you
think with children.
can ride this whole community on pavement.
Yes.
But to send your, 12-year-olds out, they cannot say, they have to cross a road to get from pavement to pavement. So I would like to see us connect and that's.
Well, there's some work that's gonna be done at 27 and Gratiot this summer. Yeah,
So that will help.
yeah. I mean,
Most
some
definitely.
new signaling and.
And the only thing I would like to see us to choose things other than what Lennox Township already has.
Hmm?
I would like to see us choose things other than what Lennox Township has already built.
Okay.
Because most of the community is gonna have to drive to this park, correct?
No,
No, not really. If we would do our connectivity, it could be a.
what if you have to drive?
Chris, they drive to the pool.
That's just laziness.
I know, I understand that,
Okay.
but for the most part, a mom is going to put her kids in the car and go to the park.
No, not the moms I know. They're gonna get on their bicycles,
Yes, and I would do the same.
okay, and they're gonna ride to the park, okay?
So I would just like to see things different than either what we currently have at Haven Ridge or what Lennox has. Something
Well,
completely different.
Lennox was supposed to have a splash pad, and that went in the toilet.
I think
I don't
everything
know.
that I said were items that Lennox don't have. The splash pad, Okay, the dog park,
The tennis.
But they're added on, so what aren't they added on? That's what I'd like to research.
that is not of concern to me.
Okay.
It is of me,
I do not
And I've been
ever
very
suggest
disappointed.
the dog park. No dog park.
because all those things that were coming,
Cleans up in a
went
dog
in the
park.
crapper, and
But
they had great plans up there, and now it's not a priority anymore. That was
That's my wish
disappointing.
list, I guess, if anybody wanna know what my thoughts are. Those are the three things. But I don't think I'm gonna have a say in that.
I mean, I think we gotta change the way things are done here. We have to be harder at pushing the connectivity, pushing harder the cleaning, pushing, if we're ever gonna be something that people, and that's what my hope has always been, is that this is a place you wanna come live, this is the place.
That's my hope too, you know?
That's been my dream since I moved here, and I really, I'll be honest, I bought into, I thought Kenny Sims was that guy at that time, and he was gonna make, I mean, I bought him hook, line, and sinker, but he had vision. I'll give him all that. And that just, you know, the economy and the recall, all those things went out the window. And we need to readopt real hard plans to make this place a better place. And I hope through the capital improvement program and, you know, there's money out there. We just aren't prepared to take it, and we need to get it.
There's money out there and there's money in the coffers. We currently have money that can be, some can be designated for certain projects.
I mean, especially if they're gonna sell this property and they don't have I mean, if we're gonna give it to them at such a rate, and you don't have the PUD offer with it of what they're gonna actually build in there, and you end up with houses that are half the price of the houses right next door to it, what's that gonna do to Amherst and Pembroke's property values if, you know, you're putting another set of row housing?
Where the park would bring their values up.
Yeah. I think the park could
A
also.
good
help
park,
us.
a good park. Okay.
I don't know, I'd really like to see it explored. I guess I would like not to see it given away, the property, myself. So I guess I could support you know, let's form a committee and explore this properly and see what we could do with it versus if we're gonna give it away for 40 grand, we can give it away in a year at 40 grand too, probably. I mean, if you're just gonna give property away. He's got Pembroke South to go work on next.
Keep waiting for these houses
I mean,
prices to
less than
decline,
a
and it's
dollar
just
an
not
acre.
happening.
I know. I'm sorry, Lucy.
Less than $1 an acre.
1,000 acre. 1,000.
1,000.
Yeah, per acre.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, when you list my house at a,
That's 1950 prices.
yeah. When he does that deed work on my property, when I bought my house, it was worth $29,000 for my little lot.
Mhm.
Hell, I could buy this whole freaking thing for that? Is that the way that works?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
It doesn't sound like we're looking for an improvement if that's the route we're going in.
Let's
It could be
not-
the linchpin to something really special.
It's selling New Haven short once again.
Yep.
Just kind of off topic, but I've heard dog park thrown out a few times. Who cleans up at a dog park? Because that's gross to me.
I don't like dog park.
Well, the concept is that the dog owners would clean up after themselves.
That would be the concept throughout an entire
That's-
subdivision as well.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
I think
You
it
put a
depends
thing with
on
little plastic bags.
The users. The users are going there for specifically a dog park,
Yeah.
will clean up. It's the oddball goofball that goes in there that doesn't clean it up. Because I was
Well, I think
literally,
anybody taking their dog for a walk would have the intention to clean up after the dog had it made a mess, but that doesn't always
I
happen.
don't think they do. I think they want to poop on somebody else's lawn and leave.
There's a reason I don't have a dog.
We got one in our
because I'm
subdivision
stepping-
that don't clean up behind their dog, and I know for a fact that Macomb County, which kind of surprised me, the Macomb County, what do you call it? Animal,
Animal control?
Animal control.
paid a visit.
I would suggest,
That's an option? Oh, my ring camera's about to get busy.
Let me
A
find that
lot
number
of
for
firms
you.
have the containers with the plastic bags for
yeah, you gotta have that. But
people to take care of that.
what took is curbs it into Cora Park is the amount of doorbells that have a camera on them. And the first thing they do is post a poop person and their dog right on the page. So I mean, you know what you can do with that park? Make it a live feed. So you see exactly what's going on in that park all the time. And if you're somebody that's going there and your dog's dumping and you ain't cleaning it up, everybody can watch you on the live website.
It's my understanding that a typical dog park, you know, the way it's fenced in, and it should be, you know, so large and whatnot, and, you know.
I thought that was how it worked, but I thought that was how owning a dog worked to begin with.
I've been to
My
the
mistake.
Point Dog Park.
I guess that's why I don't own one.
I think the people that are dedicated to it, that want to use it, will be.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic.
No, but you're right. I mean, the dog poop is a big issue. You don't want a big pile of it. But I think there's probably some issues we could do to help curb that. Like I said, I've only been to the East Point one. It's in the end of my old neighborhood, and it was clean. I was really thinking
I also kind of wonder
it
about,
would be poopy.
another off topic, how do all dogs get along at these dog parks? I guess I need to go observe a dog
should
park
get
in
a dog.
action.
Maybe if you went and watched the dog park, maybe you'd like a dog.
Maybe.
Or maybe you can just put the live feed on your TV in the house. It'll feel like you have one, and you're done.
Will they let me pet all of the dogs in the dog park?
Well, most pet people like you to pet their dog, but.
Okay.
But there's a lot of concepts that we could do with it.
So what we've taken from this conversation is, summarize for me.
From my opinion,
Yeah.
I think it could be something. It could, especially if we're giving it away for nothing. It's not achieving a goal if that's what we're doing to get something that possibly hurts the land values around it or doesn't bring us revenue to do better things with it. You know, I think it was originally proposed at 120 homes.
Something like that.
And it, you know, $2,000 donation to the village of New Haven apiece. That's a, you know, nice net of $300,000.
Yeah, I think it was 303 something is what the original offer was.
You know, a yearly income of 300 grand would be nice to the village of New Haven. If we're
But the
putting,
300 is a one-time sale, it's your tax revenue. and
no, I'm
rooftops.
talking $2,000 a house at 150 a house.
Oh, you're talking the
Tax
taxes.
value. I'm talking about cash into
I'm
the
sorry.
village every year. 300,000 would be a great thing, but if the thing is to give it away and put 30, 40 small homes on there, then it's not bringing that kind of value to the village that we could do anything with. It's a nice little drop in the bucket, but it's not enough to do anything with that money. It's not gonna help. I'd rather be focused on the other properties for development, for residential, if we can't get something. I see it as money that we can use to have a good, stable budget and have recreation programs. And if we get $30,000 out of this thing, that ain't gonna solve any issues, or we'd get more out of it, out of advertising, and hopefully, just like Mr. Dilbert said, that the people around it increases their value, we can pick up the money on their house. Well, you're homesteaded. Wait till you sell it. When you leave, we're gonna recess that house. I mean, I don't pay $2 grand to the village no more, but I used to pay almost $3 off my new house.
Just out of your village tax alone, or is that all three?
No, that was, the village tax was 26, 20. It was hard when I got the first one. Because I didn't roll it into a mortgage, I had to pay it. So it was, I kept a decent tab on it at that time. But the downturn took all that away.
Okay.
My takeaway is that the property is the village's, and we should get the most out of it that we can possibly get it. Whether it's 100% park or a possible hall, mixed use with a park, or versus homes that we are gonna get a lot of money out of, or homes that we're not gonna get anything out of?
I mean, just even a nice hall. We don't have a nice place to have a party,
No. I mean,
an indoor party right now.
again, I come from Roseville, and we had a recreation center that had rentable rooms. It was always busy. I mean, sometimes because our Kiwanis group was there for free, we get booted out the door because they would get, rental, and, we're there for free. We'll move for that
Yeah.
meeting or have a different day or whatever, but if they could rent it. Rental space out, it was, not that I think it was a moneymaker, but it was someplace people could go within the within the city to utilize it, where they couldn't do it at home. That's a great benefit if it, you budget it out and make it break even. I think there's a lot of possibilities there. I would like to see it further researched, and maybe we suggest there's a committee created to weigh the benefits to the village versus what the current offers are on it.
Should we send something to council or sharing our opinion?
I think that's our job, isn't it? I mean, we're zoning
I
our
think it is.
village.
Future use, yeah.
Okay.
And maybe we could lend to the committee. Maybe we could lend members to the committee to help do that. I'm not 100% as far as that's what it has to be, but again, I'm weighing benefits. What do we get out of what? Current plans, we get nothing out of it, really. If it's done right as a park, it could have a heck of an impact for the community. Maybe it would spur us off into, when you're applying for a grant and you're putting it towards something unique and special, that helps us in the grant category to get it funded. And if we can attach that to trails as part of that, making that a central location to get to. There's all sorts of ways to word these things to make us more attractive, to get some money so it's not coming out.
Oh, yeah, there's tons of grant money out there that we can chase.
We're 1 mile here or whatever it is. I mean, we should have that whole place designed that the Village of New Haven is, this is it. This is what our goal is. Everybody talks about putting the trail up New Haven Road in Washington, and up Gratiot, and here and there, and you should do it. They'll attach.
All right, are we ready to move on?
I am. You got me sold.
If you don't, you're gonna run out of camera space.
It's your puppy, Mr. Gilbert. Do you want to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we had asked council to not sell that park and to further explore the possibility to not sell that property and to further explore the possibility of making it a park.
I would like to second that. I think it's worded perfectly. We're not telling them we want it done, we're asking to explore the possibilities.
For future use, yeah.
And could I add to that, and to attract future development? Because I think if the park is there, that it could help us attract.
I think it would go a long way, so, yeah, absolutely.
Could be the next king animal then.
You are the two that live next to it, the closest though. Are the houses more attractive to you guys, or is the park more attractive to it?
I don't think it affects me personally either way. I'm kind of removed from it, but I'm a rooftop kind of person.
Yeah.
Everything can't just be a rooftop, you gotta give the residents something. You can't just have rooftops.
And I totally appreciate what you're saying, you know, but I know we have access to a lot of, we're very fortunate where we're located, we have access to a lot of recreation not too far from us, and I've never seen a line to get in the park that we have. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel like there's not enough room there, but.
I mean, for us, we got a park with nothing in it. So when you talk about hockey or tennis or, those are all pretty attractive to, I mean, I just got a big open space. And the only thing anybody wants to put there is a pool
Don't get one.
over my dead body.
No, because everybody wants to complain that it's not open, but nobody goes to it.
I'm more worried about the traffic. Right now, I just gotta contain the food trucks, you know, the people from parking in my driveway so they can get their food and those kind of things.
That may have been me once or twice, but I didn't.
So, I think I'm gonna have to abstain from this vote because I'm a voting member on purchasing the property. Do you?
You don't have to abstain.
Yeah, okay, well then, all right, that's fine,
No, you're an active member of this
Right.
board. Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
But
I
it could
came
be
across that.
conflicting with, okay, that's fair.
Everything we do is gonna conflict with council at some point in time,
Yeah, I agree, okay,
whether
that's
it's
fair.
rezoning or,
Right, that's fair.
There was an
Yeah,
opinion when I was
based on what
on
I'm
here
talking.
as a trustee that I was allowed to vote on both issues because I'm serving from two places.
Yeah,
So
Makes sense.
I don't know if
I'm
that
just not
opinion,
sure if the
I guess that is
voting-
something proper they should give to you,
right,
but that's the way it was when I was on there, that I could vote as a liaison on the planning side and then go vote
absolutely.
on the council side.
right, I just can't conflict my vote, so go ahead.
So we'll take a vote, a roll call, please.
Do you have a support?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
I
I
was
was
in
gonna
support.
say
Mr. Dilbert made it, I supported
Yeah,
it.
so do a roll,
We'll do a roll call.
okay.
Then you
Chris
can do
Dilbert,
exactly what you want.
Yes,
Rob Pennell,
Yes.
Rachel Witset, yes. Lucy Nolan Dilbert,
Yes,
and Tracy Bonkowski.
And I have to say no.
You can abstain if you want.
Yeah.
No, I'll say no, because then it doesn't conflict later, that's all.
Well, I think a no would conflict too, wouldn't it? If that's what you're thinking.
no,
No.
No? Okay.
Okay, my thing is super quick, short and sweet. So we passed a sign ordinance about wall signs. In an industrial area, we said you can only have one wall sign. And basically it boiled down to per entrance. So if there was a building with 3 stores and 3 doors, each store could only have one wall sign. So fast forward, Tractor Supply, 1 building, 1 door, Tractor Supply. They added a garden space. They wanted to put up a sign that said garden space. So they went to ZBA, because that's what they have to do, and ZBA granted them permission to add the second sign. Even though, the variance, thank you, even though the planner recommended that we don't do that, because you're setting precedents then. We have an ordinance in place and we need to follow it. Council felt that because they had a second entrance, that they could have 2 signs. And, well, it's saying what they are. But the problem falls into play, we can't control what the sign says. So I told them, I reminded them that we put this plan together for the sign ordinance and that they all accepted it. And now that they were going against what our planner is recommending and what they agreed to do. So I said, I'm going back to planning with it and we're gonna have to revisit that ordinance. So it's up to you guys. Do we wanna revisit it or do you wanna?
but what should be revisited? If the ordinance said one per, so, I mean, so the ordinance says but the ZBA,
Threw it out.
the council threw it out.
And I agree with you 100%, but I told them, you're going against what you guys agreed upon and you're setting a precedence.
And that's why the council shouldn't be ZBA.
I'm just the messenger,
Pardon me?
Council ZBA,
council CBA.
Where does ZBA go?
When did that happen?
they kicked them out.
It's been a while.
Okay, well,
So I'm coming back to you and I'm offering, do you want to revisit the sign ordinance, yes or no? It doesn't matter to me either way. Remember,
or are there things we can do to make it harder to
no,
tweak that? I mean, I agree, it just is stupid to do that.
because we cannot control what the signs say. And I get it, Tractor Supply, and then they have a garden center, it will look lovely, I'm sure it will.
So the
But-
precedents were set into was that you can put a different sign at every door of your location.
That's what that tells me.
That could be very problematic. But that's not our ordinance anyways.
First of all, they sought a variance for something that they hadn't formally been denied. Or they had been denied by you?
I think they asked for an opinion on it, and I said that it wasn't something that we would recommend approval for. And I believe they went directly to the variance application.
Well,
I
didn't
can
they change
answer
the site plan as well by doing that? Wouldn't that need to come to planning to expand what was
No.
previously approved?
No,
No, that
because
was
I-
for building.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily an expansion of use or a change of the, way that the site functions. If it's just the addition of a sign, you can just submit for a sign and then get it approved.
Also, the garden center isn't enclosed or,
It is.
So that was that's already gone through the whole process because, what was the rationale? Because it was within the existing footprint and there wasn't a change in use. It didn't have to go through full planning approval because they just demolished a portion and then fit that place that they demolished and put a new use in.
Yeah, they just took that fenced-in area and they put the big plastic structure.
Greenhouse type thing.
also, it's not per se a permanent building, it's,
It's permanent, but it's more of like a
It's
greenhouse
permanent until the
looking.
next tornado comes through, but
Yeah.
I haven't noticed the change, but as much as I like to shop local, it's become a place that's very hard to go to. Because I go there and it never has the damn thing I need, even if it
I
says
don't
it
do
is
anything
online.
there.
I go online, it says it's there, I get there and it's not there.
Long story short, it's up to you guys if you want to revisit it or not. That's all I was bringing to
what kind of language could we possibly
Yeah,
put in that ordinance
to make it grittier.
to make,
You can't.
yeah.
You can't.
Because you can't tell them what they can or can't put on that sign. I mean, obviously, no profanity or anything like that, but.
But I'm saying, what kind of language can we possibly put in the ordinance that would have?
Well, somebody had brought up, like, if you have a dealership and they have a collision shop, you then have the collision shop sign. So they kind of likened it to that, where it's like, here's the dealership and then here's the collision shop. So I guess looking at an ordinance that has a repair shop or even a Home Depot, because they designate the different areas too.
Yeah, they do.
Looking at like a Chesterfield sign ordinance and see
But
how they
that's
designate
what I'm
it.
saying, with council being ZBA, no matter what we put in the ordinance,
Well, any ZBA though, no matter who the ZBA is, they can change or allow a variance. So who it is, I understand what your thought process is.
it does,
But
it does matter. Because council is elected, ZBA is appointed. They take a different perspective.
I understand that, but any group of people could have
Yeah,
allowed this. So
yeah.
we can't say it was just because it was the council.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is there any language that we could put in there short of a firing squad,
We gotta ask John.
you know?
So, at the end of the day, like, I don't think if we made the ordinance any stricter or whatever else, like, I don't think that would have changed necessarily the decision, because like, the decision was, they're sympathetic to the plight of the owner. I would argue that it didn't really meet any of the criteria for a variance, which is why I recommended it not be approved. But, such is what happened. Now, in terms of addressing how we avoid something like this in the future, because I think currently, when the variance is approved, pretty much if anyone ever came with a secondary entrance, they want to put a sign, and we said no. Like, we go to the variance and be like, hey, like, here's my case, you did it before, you couldn't really deny it. If in the new ordinance, we had something that said like, you can have a second sign over a secondary entrance or something like that, but it has to be X number of square feet, you could do something like that, and that's what I've seen in other ordinances. The only issue is like you said, you really can't talk about content, because you could say like, well, if you have a secondary use, you can have a sign that then identifies that secondary use, or that secondary entrance, because now you're telling them what they can put on that sign.
Mm-hmm. That
So
was my
it's like,
concern.
It becomes this rabbit hole of what, you're gonna say you can have a secondary sign, but it could be anything still.
Well, previously, all signs came to planning to be approved. So if you went back to that route, then planning would go with their ordinance as it's read. At that point, you're taking a vote to do it or not do it, which would then, if they want to take it to ZBA,
They still take the ZBA.
but at that point, ZBA is saying, oh, they took a vote at planning and they denied this. So now we're gonna blow off planning. Because right now, council just blew off the ordinance per se. It wasn't another voting body of their government that said, no, we're sticking with our ordinance.
Which they would be less likely to do if it did come back here first.
Because then they're watering down
Yeah.
their system. And that was where one of the signs in the village, when I was there, that it did go to ZBA and the sign was put up. But at that point, council wasn't happy either about that. It went to planning, it got denied, it went to ZBA, it did get passed. But they thought it as legally, well, then what did we do this for?
So if the ordinance says something about allowing a secondary sign, as part of something that's allowed, you can say you have up to 2 signs, you have one over a main entrance and one over a secondary entrance or whatever else. Even if it came before planning, you couldn't technically deny them if it was within the ordinance, if they were allowed to do what they were allowed to do as prescribed within the ordinance. So if you denied them, I think they could probably come back at the village and be like, hey, like, they unjustly denied me because I'm allowed to do this according to the ordinance.
But the ordinance right now only says one.
So
Says
if
one.
the ordinance says one, and then the village grants the variance on whatever grounds they decide to grant the variance on, then you just you expanded the definition of what the ordinance was without explicitly doing it. Because now you don't, like I said, now you don't have the ability to stand on the leg, because, yeah.
Next person.
Because even though it doesn't say that even though it says that one sign, if they have a lawyer who looks into it, they'd be like, okay, now you allow this situation, so now whatever you have here is kind of expanded. There wasn't necessarily, and that's why the variance criteria is set up the way it is, where it's like, we'll do justice to the property, is there a substantial burden to the property, or is there like unique circumstances, or what's going on here that would require a variance? If there's no like unique circumstance there, or something that's making this person that needs that second sign, then if you grant the variance, then there's really, you can't say, well, we only did it this specific time because of this scenario.
Well, they were pleading that it was a unique setup because they added this garden center and people needed to be told this is the garden center and this is how you get in there. And I don't disagree with having the 2 signs,
Like
but
that.
at the end of the day, that's not what my rule says.
Yep. And then that's where it's like, I get it, like, most places that have a type of setup have that type of a sign, I get it. But I think the same thing when you look at the variance criteria, it says, is the situation self-created? It was self-created, like, because they had a structure before, they didn't have a secondary sign. So it's like, they were able to function, they were able to make it work, and then they decided to demolish and build this new structure, and like, now we need to have this thing. It's like, well, if you didn't do that in the first place, you didn't need the new sign. And secondly, it functioned without a second sign. So it's like, it becomes like circular. to a degree where it's like,
Well,
When you take their
again,
one case and you're looking at garden center, and you're not going, but what if it was the CDB store,
that was my point, Rob.
oh, is
That
it?
was my point to the group.
Without
Because I
saying
said,
in those words, yeah.
They
without
added
saying
another
that-
door?
No, I did. I said, I buy a building and it has 3 doors. And the middle one's gonna say Tracy's Party Store, and this door's gonna say cigarettes, and that door's gonna say.
Bongs.
Bongs, right. Because you can't control what the
No.
sign says. We wrote a rule, trying to stick to the rule.
Yes.
Okay. So again, do you guys wanna revisit that? Yes or no? If you don't, that's great. If you do, that's great too.
Yeah,
Just
CBA shouldn't be used that liberally.
No.
I would say,
Was there an attorney opinion too?
The attorney was there, yeah. He would have objected if we weren't allowed to do it.
What do you mean?
I would
You're
say,
gonna get an
let's leave the ordinance the way it is.
ZBA?
I think we're gonna leave the ordinance the way it is because we try to address this type of situation. And so each one is gonna have to stand on its own merit.
yeah, at the end of the day, like if they decide to, if somebody else comes in and wants to supply an application, they have a sign plan and it has multiple signs, we'll still say the ordinance has one sign, we'll still enforce that. If they come back to ZBA, the ZBA can make their decision again. Even if they decide to uphold the ordinance at that time, then it's up to the lawyers to decide if they want to take it to the next level to appeal, to a higher court. So there's still the ability to do it, it's just more so my point is like now there's a chink in the armor, is that type of thing. But
I would say go back to the way we used to do it. And have a non.
Well, that's reopening the sign ordinance back up.
Yeah, I'm saying reopen the sign ordinance, to go back to the old way, that a non-elected, non-political body makes the decision first, and then it goes to the elected body if there's an appeal to it, and then they can, because it would give more weight to the fact that, okay, why do we have bodies making decisions if everybody's gonna take everything to ZBA anyways?
So that's where, like, I know in other communities, they've had it where the planning commission has reviewed zoning ordinance variances, like application variances. They don't make a decision on it, but they can make a recommendation to the ZBA. So that's something like the village can decide to take on, they can make that part of the process. And then the planning commission will just at least have a say and be like, hey, we think this is a bad idea or a good idea. Make the recommendation on an up vote or a down vote to the ZBA.
So we would make that recommendation to council?
We
Could
could do
they,
that.
from now on, that planning would like to see those applications?
I think it's reasonable to ask the council, and if the council says that that's something that they would like to see in the process, at least now you have 2 deliberative bodies to show some balance, maybe some more thought behind stuff, and it also kind of gives the village council a little more of a shield, I feel like where they can then, like, well, you can defer to a recommendation or something like that, so now they don't have to necessarily be the only party that looks at it. There's just that process.
That is a good idea, because now that we're talking about this out loud and I'm thinking about it, no matter who the governing body is, the ZBA, whether it's council or a separate group of people, they have no idea what work we put into that, and what our thought process was, and how we came to the idea of only one sign.
That's a good point right there.
They don't know, and I tried to plead the
We put the
case.
time into it.
Right, I tried to plead the case, but everybody was all excited, we were having a garden center. But I see that, but Rob, you would be the same way. You would be super excited that they have a garden center and they're putting this really cute garden center
I'll
sign.
get excited.
What if I knew the sign ordinance, and I spent a whole year working on it?
But if you didn't know it, if you didn't know the sign ordinance, you would be,
I might be, yeah.
So maybe that,
So council didn't get the benefit of knowledge.
I tried.
Well, I
Sounds like
don't
you
think
did.
it got denied before they just went to ZBA. Did it get formally denied before it went before ZBA? Because even in the ordinance, it says, a party who had a sign denied by the planning commission or a sign permit denied by the building department may seek a variance. Did either of those happen? Because it didn't come before us.
So maybe
I'm guessing like when, I I don't know the formal, like, what happened in the building department, but I know when I was reached out about it, I said, like, that's not something we would allow. So I don't know if it was like a formal denial or what was, like, what they were given. I just know that when I was asked about it, that's what I said, was like,
Okay.
you know. So I'm guessing that's probably where they were able to then take it to variance. But, yeah.
You were there, Rachel. Do you feel I'm explaining myself well? That was their, they didn't, it's not they didn't care about the ordinance, but they didn't care about the ordinance. But they need to,
Yeah.
because
That's where you get opened up and smacked in the head.
that's right.
And that's where, like, also, like, I think with the citizen planner opportunity as well, like, it might be good to, whether it's planning commission or village council or anyone, like, it's always good to get the education as well. Not that they're not educated, but it's one of the things, like, when you get the formal training and you get your eyes opened up to a little bit, like, what goes into planning, like, what the ordinances are, what your actions do for ZBAs, because we talk about ZBAs in that class as well. At least, like, let's say one or two members could potentially bring that knowledge, at least, like, be able to share that with the group, or have, like, more than one advocate. Because, like, if it's just you, like, fighting an uphill battle against everybody, it becomes a lot, you know?
So if we would have got those, if we would have seen that application, that we could have, as individuals, reached out to them and said, hey, this was the thought process behind it, or to help support that. So would you guys like me to tell them that because I told them I was coming here with this, that I did, and we can't go backwards and change anything, and we're not going to. At least this committee, with this group of people, isn't. But moving forward, we would like to see those applications.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's new planning classes. Maybe if they want to act as ZBA, they need more people to attend those classes.
Well, I mean, if you go to the planning courses, one of the things they say is do not make your council your ZBA board. I mean, they say it. Don't do it.
Do they really?
It's a bad idea.
I'm gonna look at that
Right,
book.
and I mean, ZBA should be like almost never,
It was always independent,
like,
didn't set up nothing else.
But I think that's a good idea in terms of, like, asking for, being able to review and give recommendation
Okay.
on the variances.
Okay.
And then still allow them to have a decision, but
Right.
at least to be able to have a
Yeah, they
recommendation.
still have the final decision, but at least
Sure.
they need to know, you know,
What the thought was.
yeah.
So in the essence of time, is that something, I'll have to ask the attorney about that. Can they give it, yeah, they can just give us that and we can just email our comments or call them and speak to them.
We literally meet them.
We don't have to have a meeting, right, yeah, that's true, you're right, that's good, I'm glad you said that out loud. So there isn't, because you know, so often that becomes the,
The holdup.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, well, we don't have time to do that. Okay.
So, yeah, like, we could easily do it where, yeah, right before council meeting, because we're the Tuesday before that.
Right,
So we just
Right.
do the recommendation, then it goes right back to council next week.
The comment, this is what planning's thought.
Yeah.
okay,
That wouldn't hold up your agenda then, right?
nope. No, because I have there's
There's
a
a-
section of time for me to
Planning update
update.
on the agenda. It's a
Oh.
standing agenda item.
Yeah. It doesn't change what I have to do, because it's still the same review for both bodies. It's the same recommendation.
And we all got that recommendation too from John, just, he, was provided to all of us,
So
so.
is that a process that we need to ask for, or is that something we need to put into the ordinance?
Let's ask for it first. Let's,
I think we should still get an opinion on it so that it's not some kind of willy-nilly,
yeah.
oh, we'll ask for an opinion on this one, but we're not asking for an opinion on that one kind of thing.
Well, any ZBA thing,
Yeah. But if it's not a rule.
it doesn't
mean-
matter.
It doesn't mean it's always gonna get followed. If it's just a process. Well,
I see what you're saying.
forget about it. Today, we don't have time for that, let's just get it, send it to council, forget about them.
Okay.
I think if we're gonna do it, it should be part of our,
Yeah, I will ask about it and then I'll see I will follow up on it, I'll let you know.
or maybe make the suggestion and then a little later after it's done a couple times, then
Right.
put it into the rule book. But it's kinda useless if we don't make it part of, I mean, because we did process out the way things get done in a written fashion now versus it being, oh, this is the way we do it, because that's the way we did it type of thing. we've made process steps to. Do you want anything from us, other than
No,
discussion?
I'll verbally deliver the information, and if it's well received, we'll get the housekeeping, the process of how it's gonna work, and if not, then I'll let you know, and we'll come up with something different. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me. Ann is requesting that the planning commission either takes on the role of a capital improvement program or farms it out to a committee that we create to work on a capital improvement program. But the purpose of the capital improvement program is going along with the filing of grants. And it sounds specifically, especially federal grants need other parts of it. So she would like us to explore this and look into what we think. So this is just here as a FYI. But if everybody could look at it, and then we could come up with how it looks to us. Did you have anything, John, on the capital improvement? That's the way I got it from them, that they're looking to, that it's a requirement under the Zoning Enabling Act to have this if we want to do certain things.
So you don't necessarily have to have the capital improvements plan, but if you want to apply for grants and stuff, yeah, you do need the capital improvements plan. So it's something where I know our department really has never worked on capital improvements plan. I've seen them range from being pretty complex to being pretty simple. I know a community you may want to reach out to is like the city of Utica. Their council, they had a couple members from their council kind of spearhead it, along with their treasury department and like their DPW. And also I believe they're engineers as well, because like those are the groups that usually kind of know like what specific investments need to be made within the village in terms of infrastructure, in terms of capital, as well as like budget and everything else. So I know when they did it, I think theirs was relatively simple. I think it was like 3 pages long or something like that. It just had a list of things that they need to do and like a potential price for it. And like I said, there's other communities that did like a full like master plan type of thing for capital improvements plan. So there's a range of options there, but it's a good thing to have. But you'll need people who know the village infrastructure and everything else to work on that.
Not really sure if this is a job for the planning commission to
Yeah.
do.
It is right here.
Well,
Says, planning commission
so
has to
it
be part of
has
it.
to funnel through the planning department,
For
planning
sure.
commission at the end of the day, but, this is, you put together a team of people that none of us are part of. You need department heads, you need, each department, fire department, DPW, clerical, probably a member or 2 of us would join that group. Not sure if this is a task for the planning commission to take on though.
Right, as the commission, I agree with that. It does, we should be part of it.
Yeah, we just have to bless it, I think, at the end of the day, is what I agreed.
Yeah.
When we talk about capital improvements, John, what's your interpretation of that word, those 2 words?
I think it can be as liberal or strict as you want to make it. So I think like, usually when I think of capital improvements, I'm thinking of specific like roadways that the village might have under this jurisdiction, sewage, water. It could be facilities such as like the village hall or specific fire departments, like the actual structures, equipment, stuff like that. Sidewalk improvements, like on specific areas that like the village may be under control of. It really can range from like, if you have a library, it can include like a library. It can include a lot of stuff that are related to the actual like assets that the village owns and controls. Above ground or underground is what I would assume it to be. And what I've interpreted as in the past for different other projects, so.
Okay, well then that has a little bit of concern for me as far as, can it be used as a slush fund for getting the things you want outside of budgeting and,
I think
I
what,
mean, I can attack a couple of specific items that, you know, when we're stealing from Peter to pay Paul to get items. Would that be considered this? And if that is, do we have the ability, if we create this, to target where those things go? As that being the village's capital improvement program?
Give us an example, Rob.
The hot rod for the fire department to ride around on.
A hot rod?
The, whatever the hell you call that damn thing.
The fire engine?
No, not a fire engine. The-
Golf cart?
The golf cart.
Oh, the golf cart.
And I went
And
to
why
that,
is that?
and the golf cart started out here, and the golf cart came out to here. And then I was told after that that had to be transferred out of the general fund. I don't know if that's true or not, to cover the amount that the fire spent that year. So that would be, I mean, I think things should stick to a budget. I don't think this should be created to make a slush fund to get things that you want. I think these should be very targeted items that go along with the planning, whether it's the park. I mean, we're trying to set goals of how we want to see things redeveloped in the village, and that's what I thought this had more to do with. I just don't want it to become this is where we go to find money when we don't have money here.
No,
This is real specific.
That's what I'm talking about.
it should have
Very specific.
a timeframe, which is typically minimum 5 year. You know, I mean,
The project.
you know, we have to take a look at, you know, the assets, the current assets, and say, okay, you know, we're gonna have to replace this 3 years from now. So we need to start setting aside X number of dollars so that, you know, when it does, you know, reach its life limit, then we have the money in place to replace it. Whether it's a sewer line or a water main or whatever it may be.
That's what I had in mind for capital improvements too. But then when you were talking about various things, the budget item and the longevity of it to me was kind of going downward. I just didn't want to see it go as a place to find money when you don't have it.
at the end of the day, there's no money associated with it. It's not like a budget or anything like that. It's more so it's a plan for things that you need to know, that you know that you're gonna need to invest in terms of facilities and maintenance and things that you have jurisdiction over.
So it's recommending where the budget items go toward.
Yeah, it allows the village to kind of prioritize things, like Mr. Gilbert was saying, like prioritize what things you can get spent on and invested in. And here's the plan, and now we have something we can specifically reference. Then the other thing too is like, when you do pursue a grant for a specific item on that list, I can say, see, it's on our list as well. So now that we're applying for this grant, it's like we recognize that it's a need, it's a priority, and this is why we're applying for this grant, because we need it. And we have this plan that shows and proves it. Because otherwise, it's a plan in itself, but there's no money associated with it.
That's what I originally thought, and that's what makes sense to me, is that if we're trying to go for getting more money to, whether it's a hall or it's the big projects that need to be funded over time, I mean, that's where this thing, there was no plan for this place at all. It was two guys in a room and here we went. Even back then, the department heads weren't involved in the layout of the place. So this is an FYI only for discussion, so you can read it, figure out more about, understand what it is, and we'll bring it back to the next meeting in March to see if it's, and hopefully we can have more information. Is this something that would be more for than its own consultant?
Oh, see, I would bring in a consultant person, but
I mean, is this something that would be best used with a consultant that the consultant's looked over the village and seen this and seen this and seen this, and this is their professional opinion on you know, if you do this, you're gonna get to this point, and do this, and you know, some of
I
it's
was
done
literally
already.
handed this today, so I have read none of it, so I can't answer anything.
That's why I'm asking some questions, see if we can get some.
You know, at the end of the day, none of us are experts in this. This is my opinion. So I am a big proponent of bringing in people. That's why we have John. He's a expertise in planning. So you bring someone in that facilitates you through this process. Recommend, these are the people that should sit on this, in this team and do this.
Yeah.
I'm not qualified to do it. I'm not sure about you.
Well, I guess my hope is that, I don't know, that we do have a consultant and an expert. My personal opinion of us is, I think we've done some really good work here in the last couple of years. I'm pretty pleased with accomplishing the zoning and getting the planning, like, all through COVID. And in my previous experience, I didn't have that here. The board gets along well. I think we've done a pretty decent job. So if we can help propel things that we would like to see, like the whole master plan, my previous experience with that was nobody read anything. They just came to the meeting and that was it. It was very disappointing that there wasn't a lot of input from the people there. And I think people here own things better than, you know, what I had my past experience. I think it just, people read it, people look at it, people have comments, we debate. So that, I just like to learn more about it and see if it's something that, obviously it's something that's got to get done if we need it for grant money. So that's where we're at. Planners report, you got anything to report before we,
I think we did a pretty extensive job today, so
yeah.
nothing else to say.
Okay, we have public comments on non-agenda items, and no one's here for that. Clean room. Call from the table. Lucy?
I think we've done an extensive job of that, too, didn't I?
Chris? Tracy?
Thanks.
Oh, motion to adjourn at 9:25.
Support.
So moved.
Second.